Stand, please. Oh, yes, oh, yes, oh, yes. The Solemn Court now stands adjourned, sign it aye. God save the state and this honorable court.
Yeah. Shout out to the Cows gang, man. This has been long overdue. On this segment, you know I'm going to move a little different because I don't want to cause no problems. And y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? Y'all already know what time it is today. You already know what it is. So I'm letting you know right now, you might as well just be seated up in this. You might as well just be seated up in this. You know what I'm saying? Salute to the Cows gang. You know, like I said, this has been long overdue. and you know, he'll be here in a minute. I ain't want to play the songs I usually play because I don't want no problems. Because you already know they'll be like, oh, he over there with him. You already know how that go. You know what I mean? But hope everybody having a good day, man. Hope everybody had a good day. Hope everybody just laid back chilling, made their money, doing whatever you do. We definitely gonna have a good dialogue and a good conversation. You know, man, I just been chilling all day. You know what I do? You know, sitting on the couch, you know, couch ganging. So salute to the couch gang. This weather out here has been funny acting, man. It's been 60 degrees and stuff like that. Caught a little cold a couple days ago. I'm working on that, man. So forgive me if you see me muting and going in and out. Shout out to MPI for the $5 donation. He says, be on your best behavior today. If not, you shall be put in timeout or block. He laughing. Ain't no BMT coming on here, so you know we won't have no problems. You know, shout out to MPI, man. But yeah, man, this has been long overdue. Been definitely long overdue. But I gotta give a shout out to I want to give a shout out to Christopher Lee for the $5 cash app. He sent this yesterday. He said, we need these kind of convos, bro. And that was for the conversation that we talked about, me and Dallas D. Shout out to Christopher Lee. Appreciate you. I got to give a shout out to Banks for Cash for the $50 cash app for today. He sent it this morning. Shout out to you, my brother. I won't be playing no Clifford Burns today either, man. I'm going straight PG since I got, you know what I'm saying, Judge Joe Brown coming on here, but definitely shout out to Banks. You know, but this is gonna be an interesting conversation. You got the real judge, you got the street ordained judge, Mr. Palm. You know what I'm saying? So and shout out to Dana, because Dana is the reason why it happened. You know, shout out to the real Dana. But I tell y'all this, that situation with this Takeoff is starting to slowly unravel on what really went on and who he was arguing with, you know, and who was the perpetrator, which we already said some of the stuff. I'm gonna be talking about that tomorrow. Because when it's all said and done, because there's a lot of people saying, man, I don't believe they got into it over a basketball or they got into it over a dice game. I don't believe they got into it for something that petty. But when you dealing with emotional dudes, it don't matter about the money. It's just in them. Oh, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. As y'all come up in here, please hit the like button. There's one thing that is free. And if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. You know, we just going to sit back, wait, talk, and wait on the judge to come on in here. We're going to talk about that. So, you know, tomorrow when I talk about it, we're going to have over 1,000 people up in here. Because I'm seeing guys with like 1,000 subscribers, but when they do their video, whether it's pre-recorded or not, they get over 100,000 views and everything, because everybody's really in tune with this situation. One, because it's an unfortunate situation. Two, they fans. And, you know, three, they want to see who really involved in this unfortunate act. So I do understand. But yeah, man, we definitely gonna talk about that tomorrow. You know, y'all saying Cows Gang, let's act right today. Yeah, we're gonna be on the rated GPG style today. You know, I'm gonna do it for the judge. You know, certain individuals that come on, I ain't gonna do what I normally do, especially if somebody that's in the political. The only one I was able to kind of do that to was with Vonda B. Shout out to Vonda B, who became the new family court judge out there in Texas. She doing good, man. Her channel on YouTube is up to over 300,000. Her TikTok, man, she doing the thing over there. So I think she doing a swear in January, I think. Yeah, probably try to. I'm gonna talk to her and see when she doing a swearing. I'll probably go out there for that. But yeah, man. Hope everybody had a good, safe, and a productive weekend. And it's just tripped out how this weather's been out here in Chicago, man. 65, 70 degrees. Pneumonia weather for real. Shout out to Nice for the 999. This brother said, keep up the good work, support and respect from the Bay Area. Shout out to California. Shout out to you, Nice, man. Be safe out there as well. You gotta be safe everywhere anywhere, everywhere you live, man. Shout out to Nice. Yeah. Definitely gonna continue to do what we do. Speak the truth, spread the message, make people mad because
you can't handle the truth.
But y'all know how I feel about the truth. The truth is what?
Truth is what it is.
It's exactly what it is. Shout out to Space Kitchen Podcast for the $10 donation. Said, what up, Mr. Palmer? It's my birthday today. Ready for a great show, man. 100, 100, 100. Hey, put the ones in for Space Kitchen Podcast. Today is birthday. Happy birthday to you, my brother. Shout out to you. Yeah. Yeah, man. Enjoy your life, man, because you only live once, man. Definitely celebrate, even if you just thank God for living to see it another year. You got a whole year to party and do what you do. Yeah. Happy birthday. Man. Oh, man, like I say, man, this is long overdue. I seen Judge Joe Brown he always on the Real Dana show. And he was on there with Dennis Sperling. He was on there with, excuse me. He was on there with, who else? Kwame Brown. He's been on there back and forth with Tommy Sotomayor. Yeah, y'all know who he is. Been on the show, had his own show for years. And I used to watch it left and right. Shout out to my brother Abdul, salam alaikum, for the $3 donation. He said, show will be lit, will be fire, flames, Philly in the building. Salute. Shout out to you, my brother. Shout out to you. Oh, he was on Angela Staten King show. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, he was on that show. So he all over. I mean, people know him in the YouTube streets, but everybody know him for being on this show. I don't even know if his show still come on because I ain't really too much watching TV like that. Shout out to XL Pro for the $5 cash. He said, salute to the court and jury. Shout out to you. Oh, I want to let y'all know this. You remember we talked about the BMT that X'd out her boyfriend, soon to be a father, after she left the baby shower, fighting over who gonna cook first. I want y'all to know that the judge lowered her bond. You can't make this. It's up. They lowered her bond. They lowered her bond, y'all. They lowered her bond. Just letting y'all know. The Judge Joe Brown was on Gorgeous George. Shout out to Gorgeous George. I didn't know he's still doing the YouTube, be honest with you. Yeah, they lowered her bond. I'm telling you, she's not gonna do no time in jail. And if she do, she'll get probation because she got a record. What I mean by she got a record is she got records showing that he beat her and all this stuff. Even if it wasn't true, even if it was the other way around, she called the police a couple of times, and because of that, they got a track record. That's why I tell y'all, brothers, you got a BMT doing stuff like that or threatening whatever she doing, snitch. If they want to call that snitching, then snitch. Call the police, get a document, because if you ever have to protect yourself, then at least you could do is say, hey, I got receipts. I've been calling the police. They ain't been doing nothing. I've been making reports. They still ain't did nothing. I really believe she's gonna get off. That judge lowered the bond. I don't think she's still gonna be able to afford to get out, but I believe she's not gonna do no time in jail. She's gonna be found not guilty or they give her a low sentence, like 6 months probation. And this is why I tell y'all men, if you got a woman that's trying to fight you and abuse you and try to cut you and all that stuff, leave him alone, please. I have to say he was a volunteer for that one, because when it hit the fan, he could have went on about his business. He chose to stay. He didn't press charges. Yeah. Yeah. I want to play that. What's wrong with you? I do want to play it. But like I say, today I ain't going to do it. But y'all already know where I'm getting at on that. So yes. They got this stigma that men don't get abused. Men don't go through abuse from women. And we know over 40% of men get abused. And that's not counting the ones who actually admit that, hey, y'all been abused. So yes, you gotta be careful, man. I'm finna see if I can find it right quick as we wait. We could definitely talk. Pregnant woman. Shout out to MPI for the $5 donation. He said, it's my baby mama. I'm on child support. Can't see my kids because I stay in court. It's my baby mama. She collected check, got a husband, and still upset. Shout out to you, my brother. We got Mr. Judge Joe Brown in the background, so I'll show y'all this another day about that boyfriend. But yeah, I might do a whole segment on that one, because like I say, the judge, she was held on $2 million, but then they lowered the bail. And like I say, she got paperwork. She got paperwork. So look, y'all already know who Judge Joe Brown is, but I'm gonna introduce him anyway. You know, he had the show Judge Joe Brown, and he did not play around. I used to watch him left and right laughing. I seen him get into it. I'll never forget the one he got into it with a young dude. The mama took him to court, and he was talking all that tough stuff, and Judge Joe Brown put him in his place. I will never forget that one. Talking that G stuff and that street stuff, and he put him in his place. It was something with him and his mama. Mom took him to court, and she couldn't do nothing with him. He set him straight. But and like I say, he's also on the Real Dana show, basically like every day. You know what I'm saying? He's on there. He's doing the Lord's work. And to let y'all know, he's actually, and I just found this out, he's running for mayor in Tennessee. So if y'all is in Tennessee, Memphis, y'all need to support Judge Joe Brown. And hopefully after this, because we're going to be talking about child support, we're going to talk about him running for mayor and the importance of black men voting and black people voting, period. Next time we come back, all we're going to talk about is election and him being the new mayor of Memphis. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let the real judge come up in this space. We got Judge Joe Brown, y'all.
Well, it looks like the judge is in the house.
That's right. That's right. How you doing?
I'll manage. It's raining here. A lot of heavyweight stuff out there on the street, so it is what it is. And most of the streets here are broken up, so you can't drive without wrecking your car on the things. But
yeah,
there are other things that people think they can spend the money on.
You know what? Out of all these years, I did not know you was from Tennessee.
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles. When I got out of law school, I came to Memphis, but that's been 50 years ago.
Okay, see, that's what I thought you was from.
I've been here a long time, and I flew back and forth for that show.
Okay.
For the 15 years I had it, but I practiced law here. I got elected to 2 8-year terms as a judge, and it is what it is. So let's get moving. What do you want to know about it?
What I want to know, I'm going to talk about you when you was doing the show, Judge Joe Brown. How did you have your own show?
Well, let's see. It started off a long time ago. I wound up getting the youngest person in the world off death row. Day of execution, 23 minutes before they were supposed to do him in. He had been 15 years. He was 15 years, 2 weeks old at the time. And I got him off there. That got some attention, but that was back in the 80s. And then when I was on the bench, I did stuff about the sentencing and a few murder cases I tried as a lawyer. Hell, I tried a bunch of them, but several made, court TV. Mm-hmm. And then I was trying to do something about manning up the neighborhood, getting fatherhood back in the hood. So over a 10-year period, they did a survey and they found that the statewide recidivism rate for felons was about 80%, but in my courtroom, it was only 18%. So I had some stuff that I worked, and I got that from way back in the late 60s. Myself, a guy named Dr. now, Ron Chappelle, a karate master, grand martial arts master, and my brother, the late Dr. Clifford Stewart, another master martial artist, and we ran a playground. And to show you how it can go either way, one of our students, I'm sure you've heard of, it's the late singer Barry White, who we remember as a 12-year-old skinny kid on a playground, and the other one was the last person they executed on California's death row, and apparently he co-founded the Crips. His name was Tookie Williams.
Yeah, Tookie Williams.
Barry's mama would listen to us, but Tookie's mama didn't want to get, up off that check. She wouldn't, so we couldn't get him out of the swamp. So he just became the baddest alligator in the swamp.
I got it. Exactly.
But he wrote 6 children's books, and the jackass governor should have had the balls to have commuted his sentence to life. And the children's books were well recognized, and he was trying to teach kids what we taught him. But, it is what it is. So putting all that stuff together, we've got to get fatherhood back in the hood. That's why we've got so much damn insane violence. There's a lack of masculinity, but we've been letting ourselves get preempted by some man-hating types that are running, let's say, the Democratic Party, and they've been talking about toxic masculinity, and they've been wrecking the hood, and these boys aren't getting manhood, and they're getting extremely violent.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So we gotta grab a hold and take charge again.
I just thought about that when it was going on with that Tookie situation. The governor was Arnold Schwarzenegger at the time, right?
Whoever it was lacked the balls to do what he needed to
do. Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, because I remember they was trying to get him off death row, and he wouldn't do it. That's who it was. I want to give a shout out to Jeff for the $2 donation. Said court is definitely in session. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I also want to give a shout out to Florida man for the $100 donation. He says, thank you for having Judge Joe Brown. Yeah, I thank Mr. Joe Brown for coming up here, taking this time out to come over here with a man who sleeps on the couch every day. Shout out to you, my brother. Now, I want to ask you this question. When you was doing the show, Judge Joe Brown, I got to ask this. I've been wanting to know, was any of your stories or your shows fixed, or was they all?
No. I mean, what happened is I was the only one on TV that had this. The California Supreme Court in 2020 issued a 23-page written opinion and said what I was doing was official under the California mediation and arbitration statutes. It was enforceable anywhere in the state. I could lock somebody up for contempt. I could levy fines and such like. And then the U.S. Supreme Court kicked in 2007. They were talking directly about Judge Alex, who's a Hispanic guy who was one of the more all-right TV judges. And what they said we were doing is binding contractual arbitration. It was enforceable anywhere in the country. So, yeah, it was real. I had an ongoing battle with the Hollywood types who wanted to fix things up.
Okay.
But part of that decision said I was in charge, and if they didn't do what I told them to do, they could go to jail. So they kind of backed down when they would reread that opinion. But No, I wasn't having all that nonsense. Hollywood always wants the fake stuff, but I said the people want to see real. That's why they used to go to churches, so they could have sin preached to them and what you needed to do to be sin free. But I talked to a preacher 2 weeks ago, and this guy, well, it was a woman. She told me that they couldn't preach sin anymore because the congregation would walk out of the church.
Oh, really?
And I haven't heard any preacher talk about sin the way they used to for the last 30 years.
I agree.
Maybe there's a few out there that do it, but I haven't encountered them in a while. So that's what I was kind of doing, being the village chieftain. And if you're going to be the village chieftain, so the village prospers, you have to have order so you don't have chaos. If you have chaos, nobody can do what they need to do to get things together so the village can prosper.
Let me
I read a message of manhood. That was my secret, by the way. So when you looked in the mirror every morning, it was like, hey, man, you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Did you do it yesterday? Are you going to prepare today so you can do it tomorrow? Or are you going to go do what you do, have been, or might do? And are you going to straighten up some of your homeboys out there so they do the man thing too? You have to take charge. And if you're going to take charge and you're a human, you're supposed to make where you are a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, sense of purpose, morality, and ethics.
I'm gonna ask you one last question regarding your show. What made you stop doing? Did you retire?
I retired after 15 years.
Okay.
At that point, I was the #2 daytime syndicated show. We had 4 shows in the same CBS syndicated unit. It was me, Judge Judy, Oprah Winfrey, and Dr. Phil.
Okay.
And Oprah, I was beating her every week in the ratings, and Phil every day in the ratings, and Oprah and Judy and I were going back and forth, but they didn't like the idea that I was a straight black man, so they kept trying to undercut me. I mean, there is an A list, B list, and C list, but the paparazzi don't put it together. The studio does. So I had some friends that were paparazzi say, Judge, your studio doesn't have you on any list. And as a matter of fact, the #2 TV audience in America was LA, California. They didn't even have you in the TV guide, but you still #1 and #2. And every time I started beating Judy, they changed the ratings. They just didn't want straight black man because they had an agenda. And after I'd been fending them off, all the time, I just said, hey, I'm over retirement age. I've done this for 15 years. I'm on top of the game. Go to hell. I'm out of here.
I heard that. So basically, you letting us know that it is political, even with these shows behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood has an agenda. They've been ruining stuff for the last 50 years. Back in the late 60s, they had this group. The ones that hated men, the ones that hated that they weren't men, the ones that hated that they weren't strong men, and the ones that hated they weren't normal men. They all got together. They eventually became that cult LGBTQ. And what was going on is Hollywood, the movie industry, had every Thursday, every Sunday, they had 2 new movies that came out at every theater in America, 2 or 3 cartoons and 1 sub feature. And no matter how many people came to see the movie, every Thursday and Sunday they'd change, and the movie studios had to put out a couple of 100 movies a year, which they couldn't really afford because color television was knocking all that down. And all you paid was 50 cents to go in there and see that at the best theater in Los Angeles. So this new group that was part of this man-hating thing, they got in charge and they had a bright idea. Let's keep a movie at the movie house until people stop going. So we only show them 1, and instead of for 50 cents for 2, they have to pay $1.50 for just 1, and $1.50 back then is the same as going in and paying $45 for a movie ticket now. And then they said, what we're going to do is there's an untapped reservoir of money. Let's go to the black community. But instead of doing something that would enhance the black community, let's advance this agenda of destruction of manhood. So what we're going to do is glorify dysfunction. So, you know, we've got people that were getting up out and leaving out of the hood, because back then it didn't cost anything to go to a college. You had, or university if it was state, over most of the country. So all you had to do was just pay for your own upkeep and pay for your books, and you're cool. But what went on is, let's destroy these men. So let's use the black men as a guinea pig. They're probably the most masculine. Let's see if we can destroy them. So what they did is, instead of picking guys that were doing the right kind of thing, they started doing what, well, okay, Black Caesar, Fred the Hammer Williams, a football player. So the hero is a major drug dealer and a hitman. So they made him ride off into the sunrise smoking a big cigar after he and his posse killed about 35 or 40 more black folk who were laying on the floor of a warehouse. And that's supposed to be the hero. When we saw that, it was like, man, where are they going with this? Glorifying this dysfunction. And then they had Superfly glorifying coke. And then they started this Foxy Brown thing with Fine Pam Grier. But, you know, the first one she did, her brother got done in by a drug dealer, so she wanted revenge. But every time she got knocked down, which was about 7 or 8 times during that movie, a boob would pop out or a bottom end would flash. And then they would have the obligatory 3 white women and 2 black women walking around naked after they took a shower. And the acting was deliberately overdone, so it was corny, and the plot was weak, and the dialogue was pathetic. So they just kept pushing that. Then you had Baby Boy, where this fool, even if he decided to become a man, he wouldn't know what the hell to do. And he'd already ruined his career. So he's thinking that he's doing something manly by selling hot women's clothes that had been stolen to beauty salons. And that was supposed to be being a man. But it was crazy. And they've gone really far out. So this stuff you see, even gangster hip hop rap ain't really man. What you have is the ideation of all the half naked women bouncing around on screen. That's not side action. That's not main squeeze action. What's represented is mama, auntie, and grandmama. And like some years ago, I had somebody, I won't mention his name because he's an established rap artist right now, but he wasn't but 17. So his mama came in and his grandmama came in because he needed an adult. Well, his mama is 8 months pregnant. She's got on a little wrap skirt about this long, everything showing, and her 8-month prego belly is hanging over the top of a little altar that she kept popping out of. And grandmama had on a pair of booty shorts with most of her butt cheeks out and a little unbuttoned blouse knotted and all the stuff hanging out. So I made them go put on a dress. Now, the boy was 17 years old. The mama was 29 years old. And grandmama wasn't but 42. So they playing hoochie mama on the side. And I got the directors or producers angry because I spent 45 minutes talking to the guy. Hurry up, hurry up. I said, oh, hell no. I said, just bide your time. I don't care if you run out of your damn tape budget. We're going to do this. And I explained the facts of life to him. I awarded him $5,000, something like that. And his mama and grandmama got mad because I put it in an escrow account until he got 25. And they were hollering about, what do you think? That's our money. We birthed him. That belonged to us. Blah, blah. I said, no, it doesn't. You didn't get did wrong. He done wrong. He did. And every now and then I run into him and we talk about it. And also, he confided in me that I was right. I said, what's going on with the rap industry is it's all over the world. And you see, whether you're talking about Sydney, Australia, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Berlin, Rome, Rio, you have a problem. a lot of young men all over the world feel emasculated. So what they're talking about is we want to see some raw masculinity. So they look at gangster rap that looks like it. But the problem is what the street cred thing is about is regurgitating what mama said or some favorite aunt who was 13 years old when you weren't but 8 or 9 and you were listening because there are no men around. And you talk poison. And that's where that N word came from. 1968, 69, use of the N word was dead. But down in the hood, those little 12, 13, 14, 19-year-old girls that hated men because they couldn't catch one. And they started having all those babies to get a bigger check. And people started getting racked around to repay the government for those checks. I was the public defender for Memphis, the chief public defender, not a public defender. I ran the office, and a lot of my white employees were scared as hell to go out and talk to the defendants and the witnesses in the hood. So I'd go.
What it is.
And I'd walk into a kitchen, it's filled with smoke, and there's a 13-year-old in there, another 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15, 16-year-old, about 5, 6 young girls, and the oldest one's 19, and that's my client. And they've got all these little snot-faced kids with dried mucus all over their faces and the front of their clothes and dried, nasty food all over everything. They stank like the devil because nobody had washed them in 2 weeks. And they go, "Little Ian, bring me my cigarettes, you little fool," just like that no good dog daddy of yours. "Give me a beer out the fridge, little Ian," blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, why you talking to your child like that? He ain't nothing but a no good little pickaninny Ian, just like a no good dog daddy. I hear you, girl, friend. They ain't none of them no good. They all dogs. I said,
Uh-oh. Dang, he got
And I'm listening at this. See, this is 1977.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe one kid in there literally was 8 years old. So in 1987, that 8 years old is 18. And in 1997, when he wound up in front of me in court, he was 28 years old. And then later I ran into him when he was 38, then he's 48. And now his mama is a grandmama, great-grandmama, great-great-grandmama, great-great-great-grandmama, and great-great-great-great-great-grandmama to 6. And she's still walking around breathing. And she came up to my court. "Your Honor, could you please reduce his bond? I can't afford to make another one. He done had 4 cases this year, and I can't put up no money. Can you reduce his bond, Your Honor?" I said, "Excuse me. Doesn't the court know you?" "Yes, Your Honor, when you ran the PD's office, you came out there with 1977 or 76, something like that." So what did I tell you about this young man then? "You told me that it wasn't going to work out right the way I was treating him, but he been a good boy to me. He ain't never give me no problems." "What do you mean he's never giving you any problems? Your son is, your grandson in here is 19 years old. Excuse me. That was the son of the one I was talking about. And he's never given you any trouble. He's 19 and he's got 37 felonies since he's been 15. It's been a major crime wave. What do you mean no trouble?" "Well, he always do everything I want." Like, what is that? "Well, if I need rent money or something, he always come up with it. He dropped out of the 5th grade and never had a job. Did you ever ask where he got the money?" "Well, the law work in mysterious ways." I mean, what that got to do with it? I'll tell you what, since this person is a major threat to society, and it doesn't seem that he will comply with the requirements of the law while he's out, let's raise the bond. What is it? Raise it 5 times, and that way you won't be able to afford it. You can tell him, "Baby, I can't buy it. I can't get it together for you. You just have to stay in there, and you don't have to worry about going down to the morgue and going to the undertaker or the funeral home and finding a dark suit for him. So, okay, he'll stay alive. Maybe we can work with him and see if we can make him man up." See, that's where all this stuff went on. I had a woman in my courtroom, and they all relied upon those checks to subsidize them. The more babies they had, the bigger the check, up to a point. So in 1994, I had a 57-year-old woman in my courtroom with felony drug and theft charges. I had her 43-year-old daughter, who was the second oldest child. She had her at 14. The 43-year-old had a daughter who was, guess what, 34. She had 1 week shy of her 10th birthday. That was the granddaughter of the 57-year-old. The 34-year-old had a 21-year-old daughter that was the great-granddaughter of the 57-year-old. The 21-year-old had an 11-year-old daughter, the great-great-granddaughter of the 57-year-old. And the 11-year-old was pregnant with her second child. So that's great, 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 great. And all of them are sitting up in front of me, and the oldest one is 57. Now, see, that madness went on for the longest time, and somebody should have corrected that. So the solution that so many have, get the man out the house. If you find a pair of shoes in the closet, cut the check off, which when I started practicing law 50 years ago, that was the #1 case for this property law center I was in. Getting the check cut back on after a social worker cut it off, because 2 of the 7 baby daddies was trying to act like a real father. See, he was crazy.
Let
And
me. Oh, go ahead,
all
Judge.
kinds of stuff's gone wrong since then.
I'm glad you're talking about that, because we're going to lead up to what I really want to talk about. Let me give a shout out to Dwayne Rose for the $2 donation. That peace, Mr. P, peace, Judge Joe Brown. Shout out to you, my brother. Shout out to the Angry Man for the $9.99. He say, tell the good judge I said what's up and keep telling the truth. And I think they do that to us here on YouTube. Yeah, I agree with that. Shout out to the Angry Man. Subscribe to his channel, but y'all already subscribe. Y'all know who he is. Shout out to Daniel Brown for the $1.99. Salute to you. I want to give a shout out to I'm gonna go down. Shout out to the Angry Man once again for the $9.99. He said, this is awesome. Judge Joe Brown is a historical witness of everything I suspected. This didn't just start in my generation. No, it did not. I always tell you that. You know that though, Angry Man. Shout out to you. Yes. Judge Joe Brown just basically put the exclamation point on the end of our sentences. Let me give a shout out to the Cash App gang. Shout out to 75 PT for the $8 Cash App. Appreciate you, brother. Want to give a shout out to Tracy Bear for the $5 Cash App. She said, my baby daddy Terrence need to hear this. F child support. Shout out to you, my sister. Now, I want to ask you one more question, then we're going to get off to this child support business. Man up. What made you come up with that slogan, man up? Because I only hear you say man up.
Man the hell up, young brothers. I come up with that. Remember when I said we had the playground with Barry White, the Future singer, on there, and Future Tookie Williams on there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we set stuff up and we recruited the community. My homeboy brother, Cliff Stewart, was the youngest playground director in the LA City school system. Why? He was an assistant. And the first guy he was an assistant for, they broke both of his arms. The neighbor community did, because they didn't like it. And then the next one, they turned his Volkswagen over and set the damn thing on fire. So nobody wanted to come in, so they let Cliff be the playground director. So he brought me and Ron in. And what we did is set stuff up. We took kids to the movies. That's the 3 of us. We take 200 kids from 1st grade to 7th grade. And we set up a short-range radio station. And I was the DJ. Mommy-o, daddy-o, this is JoJo coming to you on the radio. E to the T, baby, come fly with me, etc., etc. So one of the things that I was doing was, we got to man up if we want to get up and move up. The man thing is what we need to have, is the end thing. See, and we started pushing that. So we were examples to the neighborhood. We had some thugs in the neighborhood, but they supported us because we were taking their younger brothers and nephews and trying to set them on the right pathway. And we were giving them a cause and something to keep in their mind. So every time they looked in the mirror, it was like, hey, there it is. Now, that meant we had some play. And that's how that man up thing came in. I'm sure I'm not the first one that came up with it. It's kind of an old phrase, man up, but I know I started doing that more than 50 years ago. And when I practiced law, I would start telling my clients, man on up and tell me what the hell happened. Don't give me this BS. Well, man, I wasn't there. What do you mean you weren't there? They got 7 people ID'd you.
Right.
4 of them gave them their old mama's address, and 2 of them gave your mama's phone number. And half of them said he couldn't stand you. Well, see, I know that dude lied. Why is he lying? Because he couldn't have seen me. He was over there lighting a cigarette up under the street light when he claimed he saw me, and I was over there behind the dumpster. Wait a minute, I thought you said you weren't even there, dude. Well, yeah, man, but I wasn't there because he didn't see me, man. He lying. He was lighting up a cigarette. Oh, man, come on, get off that. So I'd say, man the hell up so you can get a decent defense, man. You give me garbage, all I can do is pass it down. Right. And when I got on the bench, that was my thing. Hey, you ain't done nothing, man. You just got your fool self put in the slave quarters where they can use you. Man the hell up and get on out. And see, I used to go walk out in the hood and the housing projects, you know, I'd go down by myself. You know, I didn't have any problem. I'm strapped all the time. Most of the people knew me. So I'd be down there, hey, didn't I tell you to be home at 10 o'clock? You got an assignment. Man, oh, Judge, I'm sorry. Yeah, you see me day after tomorrow at 10 o'clock. All right. Who you talking about? Did I ask you? This is A and B conversation. But then I might have him and about 15 other young brothers out there, you know, when the sun came up and we talking manhood. And my message was always man up.
Truthfully,
don't be dependent. Don't go get sent to the slave quarters. See this whole thing. We got to get slavery out of the 13th Amendment in the state constitutions. Man, when they put you in a jail, you in a slave cell. And see, that's a racket to run on folk. You think you slick, but they need you to commit crime. Crime is good for America's business. It accomplishes so much. There are not enough jobs to go around that pay what goes along with your education. So what do? They treat employees, laborers, as labor units. It's a commodity. And when there's a glut in the commodity, the price of the commodity drops. Sometimes it gets too low and you get pissed off folk like Timothy McVeigh, who will blow up a courthouse with $250 of ammonium nitrate fertilizer and take down 240 some people. So what you do is what happens with any commodity. Wheat, corn, cotton, soy, I don't care what the hell it is. Chicken, eggs, ham, beef, pork. What you do is you store the surplus, subsidize the would-be producer, and cut back production. In this case, the surplus goes in a jail cell instead of a grain silo. The subsidy is the welfare or assistance check you give out to the women. So you'll set up a matriarchy because dudes ain't got no money and they got to go simp and pimp to get it from the ladies. And then what's the cutting back of production? You bang out, drug out, drop out. Female get knocked up too early, too often. You don't have any vocational skills. You don't have any academic preparation. You got the wrong lifestyle. Your body language is all messed up. You get everybody pissed off looking at you, listening to you. You pissed off and angry. You don't know how to act right. You got this thing where you got to go for bad every damn time when half the point is you're fronting. Or you're going to get yourself put in a damn jail cell for doing what you're likely to do if you don't act like you got sense. So that cuts back to production. You make your community chaotic, and they can't get together and do cohesive self-help by enlightened political activity, and they're always getting chumped off by somebody that's appealing to their emotions. So you go to jail, and when they put you in jail, guess what? They are not putting your ass in there to get free labor. They're getting in there so you can't labor. The only thing they have you doing is, what is this old proverb? Idle minds mischief make. They want to have something for you to do so you don't get into too much trouble. If it's pressing license plates or making small rocks out of big rocks, the point is not getting your free labor. It's to keep your labor out of the job market. And the problem with the U.S. is we are the only industrialized country that does not have a coherent program to reverse the obsolescence that a lot of workers are finding themselves in, because computers and industrial technology have made them obsolete. So what do you do with all of these folk that get unruly and everything else? You put them in jail, and then you find an alternative use for them. The money is not made off the labor. No, the money is made off of ass wipes, toilet paper, cooking oil, food, communications, paying for the facility, paying for the security, paying for the communications and transportation. Just down the street from my courtroom, they had a pretrial detention facility. They had 2,400 people up in there. Somebody netted a profit for 1 year of $1.4 million just selling toilet paper down there. The cooking oil was $3.4 million, 3.34 million, excuse me. And the profit off of the phone system that the taxpayers had put in, that the bozos on the city council and county commission had decided to privatize. Well, guess what? That person was supposed to pay the city 4% of his net and 2% more to the county. And what happened was, for the year I had the grand jury looking at it, his net profit, supposedly $96 million. But he zeroed that out so he didn't have to pay a damn thing to the city or the county. The next year, the net profit, before they zeroed it out with some accounting tricks, was $112 million. It was $1.25 to receive the call for the first minute, and 80 cents a minute thereafter for the first 4 months of the first year in question, 1994. For the next one, it was $1.25 a minute afterwards, and it went on. Now it's even got worse. See, there's big money in that. Selling toilet paper at the local correctional center. They had toilet paper all over the damn place. And the racket was, as the warden at the time was in on it, he'd recycle the toilet paper, and the city and the county thought they were getting new toilet paper. And what it was to recycle old stuff. And the net profit for that was $6.3 million. See, people make big money off of that. 112 million. And this has been 27 years ago. Net profit, $112 million. See, that's where the big money is. And all that was happening is they were collecting the money that South Central Bell at the time was sending them. So they didn't even do any work. It was a hustle, and they paid it off to the people on the county commission under the table.
Of course. I want to give a shout out to Kosher Commission for the $5 donation. They said, shout out to Mr. Palmer and the judge. Would love to interview him about the impact of fatherlessness on development. Yeah, I'll definitely put the word in. I'll talk to Judge, and I also talk to Dana. Shout out to Kosher. Subscribe to his channel. He's a licensed therapist out there in North Carolina, and he's all about bringing masculinity back. Shout out to the Kosher Commission.
Yeah, well, that's the whole agenda. Get rid of masculinity. And you had look at what's happening with the Stacey Abrams thing. That woman's made a career of bad mouthing men, toxic, get everything. And what is she doing now? Oh, we need black male votes. And then you got Chicken Eating Sharpton in there with his little bobblehead self now. Mr. Gashead. had his full hair processed into the 90s, and everybody else gave it up in the late 1950s, and though James Brown kept frying it. And what Malcolm X say? Processed head equals a processed mind. So we have processed mind sharpened, and he's talking about you're insecure in your masculinity if you can't support a woman. And then all over the country, the Democratic Party, young Democrats, females, what are they talking about? We have to get rid of this toxic masculinity.
Of course.
And oh my God, men have messed things up so bad they need to let us women take it. Well, sorry, lady, I don't think that's the case. You have thrown these guys out of the house. You didn't want them in there in the first place. I mean, this isn't that somebody stiffed you and walked off and left you. You didn't want them involved anyway. You just wanted to check. So now you raised these boys. Who's to be blaming? We didn't do it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And
let me say this.
Go ahead.
I was married to a special woman that I had sons with. The woman was special. She was a Catholic. And one of the popes some years ago gave a dispensation from sins of the past, recently committed, and sins to be committed do not go to purgatory, go directly to heaven. She'd been of such assistance to the Catholic Church. I mean, so many priests had so many opportunities to practice their exorcism techniques. I mean, they never got the demon, but they got a lot of practice. And that kind of thing was bad because she kept telling the boys that I had to work with to get it out of their heads. I never missed the support payment. Child support was always there when it was required, and a lot more than got ordered. But she was telling them, you know, you don't need to listen to your daddy. Just let him die so you can get his money. And, you know, you don't need to work. You can get some fool woman to take care of you. And I'm going, what the devil's wrong with this woman? Is she lost her mind? Even old mama said she was crazy. So I'm sitting there trying to fight off on that. But see, I can see what goes on. So you get this crazy kind of mindset where you actually hate men, but you have boys and you don't know what men are supposed to be good for. And by the way, I used to run a counseling sessions for groups of young women, and they had to have sons between 13 and 17 in the public schools. So you couldn't tell the ones who had 13-year-old boys anything, but the ones where the boys were 15 and started to get taller than they were going, amen. And the first time they would come into the group, all of them would say the same thing. Well, Judge, with due respect, I don't understand what a man good for anyway. They just good for one thing. Yeah, girl, you right on that. And I said, okay, now, why are you here? You want your boys to be men or something else? Well, I don't want them to be one of them, you know. I said, well, you're here to find out about manhood. I said, but here's the problem. How the devil are you going to raise your son to be a man if you don't know what he's supposed to be good for when he gets grown?
I got to ask you this question before we jump to this next subject. Now, was you saying that you was on child support?
Yeah, I had to pay it.
Okay, let me ask you this. Thank you for telling me this. I never knew, never thought, never even had an assumption about that. Okay, you was married, got divorced, and you had to be on child support, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why did they put you on child support? And that's what we're finna talk about, because my thing is, I was allowed to be a full-time father, being married or in a long-term relationship. While all of a sudden we going through this divorce or breakup, now all of a sudden I'm only good with child support every other weekend. So I want to know.
It's really, divorce is too easy.
Okay.
Being married wasn't just about love or lust. It was a financial arrangement. It was a child rearing scheme, and that's what the whole deal was about. Now, when you start talking about all of these other things besides the fundamentals, and, oh, I'm having a hard time, I can't stand it, or I don't like it, I want to move on. Well, you make it very easy, no fault divorce type situations. And when people started drifting apart, it gets to the point where why get married in the first place? And a lot of women, I mean, I'm not talking about somebody that's going off and ranking someone out and leaving her. They don't want the guy around, and the guy becomes a mobile sperm bank. Now, on my show for 15 years, one of the consultants that I had was the largest fertility clinic in America. Now, get this. Only 5% of their customers were married couples. 45% of their customers were lesbians who didn't want to be bothered with a man, and 50% of their customers were the rest of the women who didn't want to be bothered with a husband. They just wanted to be mothers. And a lot of times what I ran into was that the women just decided that they want to be a mama and they don't care. They pick the guy they want, and then they don't want him involved. They just want to check. Now, back when, before they got DNA in the early mid 1980s, is a situation. One of my clients has been paying child support for 14 years old. He was a cop lieutenant. He gets a notice that there's going to be a hearing to increase the child support. Well, at that time, it was in juvenile court since he wasn't married to her. So we show up. They call the child's name. I stand up. He stands up. Another lawyer stands up. Another guy stands up. A third lawyer, and the third guy stands up. Turns out all three of them have been paying child support for 14 years on the same child. So obviously, one or two of them are not the daddies, but we connived and arranged something with a grandmama that took some money that got paid to us so the guys could slide in. They got the child tested. 3 guys got tested, and none of the 3 of them were the daddy of the child. Somebody else was. One of these Maury Povich type things, you know. So guess what? You're not the daddy. And the juvenile court didn't want to take the money away. And in where we lived, the juvenile court judge was a 6th grade dropout. So the furthest he'd gone in school was the 5th grade. And the state Supreme Court said he was so ignorant of the law and couldn't read and write well that he couldn't hear any cases because that would deprive somebody of the right to counsel because he couldn't understand what a lawyer was saying. So he hired all these people and privatized the place. And that's been 40-some years ago. And that poisonous kangaroo facility has been going around ranking out families because since they're privatized, let's generate some future business. You mess up the family situation, the boys get to acting crazy, they become juvenile delinquents. That generates business. You keep cycling and through over and over and over again and doing absolutely nothing about the problem until they get too far out there, and then you have them tried as an adult. Get them off your hands, but you've collected all the money. I have a niece. She's full grown. She's grandmother, and she was trying to get her then 17-year-old grandson because her daughter had some problems, and they kept bringing her back to court. And she's going, look, I don't want any child support. And the guardian was going, we need to find the father. And it came down to she was trying to collect the money. So the child had turned 18. They didn't even have jurisdiction, but they kept wanting to come down there. So finally, they got a referee who was a lawyer they hired down there, wasn't elected, said, no, enough is enough. This guy is, this child's been no longer a child for 7 months, 18 years, 7 months. You're out of here. Go ahead, do what you need to do.
Hey, let me get
By the way, a suggestion.
Yeah.
If you're getting divorced, guys, do not go to a divorce lawyer. Get a general practitioner. They'll get you out of there quickly. They're about the business of solving the problems. Too many divorce lawyers or those who specialize in it, they just want to generate billable hours. And you'll have an enormous bill at the end and nothing's been done. So
what kind of lawyer is that again?
General practitioner.
Wait, say that again. What kind of lawyer that is?
Just get somebody that is particularly somebody that handles criminal cases. They know how to deal with stuff quickly and get to the root of the thing. But if you go get somebody that claims to specialize in divorce or domestic matters, all the devil they're going to do is generate billable hours, and you'll get $250 an hour, 1 hour on the phone, $250. Looking at photographs, 1.5 hours, so you now have a $375 tab. So you wind up paying $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, which somebody might otherwise charge you $2,500 for, just because they say this is what it'll cost to get this done, rather than I'm going to bill you by the hour. And see, a lot of things you guys run into these days has nothing to do with child support. It's some shark that's trying to get it for the ex or the girlfriend or whatever it may be. And you're getting stuck for how long they can drag it out. One of the other bad things is what I call the hallway vultures. Some lawyers that can't make it ordinarily, so they hang out in the hallways and they got a buddy thing with the judge or the officials, and they get the appointment and they keep dragging stuff out over and over and over and over again so they can submit a bill that somebody's going to make you pay so that they can make money. And there are too many lawyers out there like that don't know what the hell they're doing. So find one that's got a reputation for fighting for you. Sometimes you need it.
Definitely. Let me give a shout out to Tony Day for the 499. Said, tell the truth and shame the devil. Salute, Mr. Palmer. Thank you, Judge O'Brown, for your righteousness and courage. We appreciate you, sir. Shout out to you, brother. I want to give a shout out to TJ for the $20 donation. He said, to the Honorable Judge Joe Brown, from a young brother, you are an inspiration, sir. Shout out to you, my brother. I want to give a shout out to GM for the $5 donation. He said, appreciate you, Mr. Palmer, for keeping that boot on these listen strict necks. Shout out to you, my brother.
Sandrick's next. That's the opposite.
Okay, I'm from Cottage Grove. I don't know. Shout out to Jeff Hodge for the $49.99. Shout out to you, my brother. Thank you. Want to give a shout out to Jay Jermaine for the $10 donation. He says, see, I told you it wasn't my fault. LOL, salute Mr. Palmer for the interview. Shout out to you, brother. Shout out to the Freak for the $5 donation. He says, big up getting the Honorable Judge Joe Brown. Shout out to you, brother. Shout out to Julius Mays for the $10 donation. He said, question for Mr. Joe Brown, Judge Joe Brown. Do you think they will get away with making pedophile legal? As always, one love, Mr. Palmer.
If you keep getting the current Black Caucus and the people that are allied with them, Black and yes, already essentially put it into law. By the way, that Emmett Till anti-lynch bill was nothing to do with classical lynching. What it did do was put in the American lexicon, legal lexicon, sexual orientation. And they want to make that almost a religious thing. So yes, they're moving that way. And by the way, now that anti-lynch bill that they call the Emmett Till anti-lynch bill, they redefined a lynching. A lynching no longer requires a killing.
Oh, really?
See, and the only three things that are covered are 1, sexual orientation, 2, religion, 3, race, but the way they deal with it, and instead of a killing, it can be a killing, kidnapping, or a beating. So let's say somebody's in a bar, he just broke up with his lady friend, wife, he's feeling down, he's getting a drink, and there's this Miss Fine thing over in the corner that's got all the curves and swerves or whatever. And he starts dancing with her, and they start exchanging tongue and whatever it may be. And then he discovers that Miss Thang got a hard on. So he go, man, what? Whoa. And he, bam, ooh-wee's on dude. Well, now if you split the lip, loosen the tooth, bruise, that's a federal lynching that brings in the FBI because it's based on sexual orientation. And there was a beating. Now it's a federal lynching. See, that's what they do to you. They sneak, they creep, and instead of saying, we're going to go protect pedophiles and these still swinging with two balls, but they put a skirt on types who we used to call drag queens, and they used to perform in clubs for ladies' night. But now,
so basically, let me ask you. So basically, what you're telling me is they in so many words they merging this pedophilia with the alphabet community.
Yeah. See, well, I got into that some stuff that I had to deal with when I sentenced pedophiles for molesting children.
Mm-hmm.
One of the data points that we dealt with was the Gay Manifesto of 1972, and it was divided into federal and state level action they recommended. So I think it was part 6 for the state action. They said the removal of age as a consent factor in sex, which talking about pedophiles. In other words, 11, 12-year-old child who wants to get it on, that's okay. And see, that's sick. That's really sick. But they've been trying to do that 1972. That's 50 years ago.
So this ain't something that just started in the late 2000s. Because people think
no, it's not. And see, the thing, it's interesting. What used to be the hierarchy 40 years ago in the penitentiary, 30, 35 years ago, was the very bottom that sucked everybody's dick were the pedophiles, and right above them that sucked everybody's dick but the pedophiles were the pimps. So they had a hierarchy. It had to do with man perception. See, pimping ain't cool either. And by the way, a little secret, I know this from all the pimps and hoes that I used to represent 40 some years ago. In Memphis, which was, it's the capital, or was anyway, typical pimp can't turn a woman out. He can discover one who's been turned out by her preacher, her grandmama.
he went blank, but he'll be back. This is very interesting. I'll tell you that. Shout out to Julius Hayes. Go ahead.
The woman has extremely low self-esteem, and people need to be accepted as they perceive themselves. So mama, preacher, and aunts have been, and grandmama been telling her whole life she halfway pretty, but she gonna be a trial in the trib. All these men's gonna be after her, and they've just reduced her esteem down to nothing. So when the pimp says you ugly, stupid, and rank and everything else, she says, oh, he must really love me because he stays with me. All these other folk trying to get in my panties any damn way.
Mm-hmm.
But wow. And the preacher, see, has been telling them, you're no good, low down sinners, etc., etc. So they cleave to the preacher. And then when they sell one slice more pie at the bake sale, the preacher puts them up on the pulpit and lets them get recognized by the church. And when the hoe sell $5 more nookie for the night than the bottom hoe, the pimp lets her ride in the front seat and walk in the club with him. And that's supposed to make it all right. And it's a real sick thing going on here. So ain't nothing cool about being a pimp. That's about as low as you can get. And I represented a lot of them, and they were some unmanly, punked out fools. They hated women, and they hated themselves too.
So basically, so many words, you said that when the pimp got the woman, she was already getting pimped from the mother, the grandmother, the auntie, and maybe the preacher, right?
Always the preacher. But you see, the way they were getting you pimping the congregation was they were telling them that they were going to hell unless they went through the preacher. And the preacher was getting money because tithing 25%, ridiculous mess. You flat broke busted, so you're going to give 1/4 of what you don't have to the preacher to pray for you, and he's screwing you too. next thing that's going on is you putting the collection plate in front of them 5 times every Sunday service, twice during choir practice, and 2 or 3 times during Sunday school. And not all preachers are like that, but you have your pulpit pimps. So those pulpit pimps, when I started coordinating things, I said, you know, a whole lot of these ladies I represent seem to have come from certain black churches. And it is not cool. And a couple of times, it's been 40 some years ago, I'd go check it out and see what was being preached. I said, oh, I understand. Yeah.
Mm.
See,
Okay.
some preachers are okay, they mean well, but the difference is like, are you trying to save souls or are you trying to increase your income?
You right about that. I want to give a shout out to Hiru for the 499. He said classic stream, brother. Shout out to you. Shout out to Oz for the 999. He said keep putting in the good work, Mr. Palmer. Prayers. Shout out to you. Shout out to Naj for the 999. He said, hey Yana, it would have been nice to see you at the rally for reparations. You must be talking about
Well,
the
let's put it this way. I've been at reparations rallies, but this was the 3rd round since I've been an adult, and the other 2 didn't go anywhere. And it's like, I support reparations, other things too. Hell, I just bought a bunch of tickets for this $1.9 billion Powerball thing, and I'd love to win the lottery. But my parents used to talk about reparations, and I remember my grandparents, including my grandfather. He made it to 100, but he was born before the Civil War was over. Well, before the Civil War started, and he still wanted his 40 acres and 1 damn army mule, or as he used to say later on in life, I take the interest compounded semi-annually at a reasonable rate, and the hell with the 40 acres of dirt and the hell with the damn mule. But we're going to have to get an enablement and appropriations act passed by Congress, which means they'll have to set it up and they'll have to approve the money, and it'll have to get past the president and Supreme Court challenge from a number of states that I see. So it might be a damn good thing. But if you talk about cut the check, they're not going to pass this and suddenly pass out a check. They're going to set up a bureau. Now, I got another side to me, which is Choctaw Indian. My grandmother was one. So, little aside from that, she used to say, I don't understand what all you colored getting all mad at these white folk for. When we got angry, we used to take a scalp and nail it to the lodge pole. And by the way, back 1949, I was breathing air in. I was on the planet, not long on the planet, but I've been in. And they passed an Indian Reparations Act, but that money's still tied up in the bureaucracy, and most of it's being spent on somebody's salary. So you're going to have, associated with this reparations, you're going to have a bureaucracy. They're going to keep track of what brand of toothpaste you use, where you go party, what music you listen to, who your relatives are, where you go, who your girlfriend is, who you've been sleeping with, what child support you pay. And by the way, some of that might get snatched to go into child support. So you're talking about keeping a study like the Tuskegee study, which wasn't an experiment. They just watched to see what happened to all the black guys that had syphilis and how quickly they died and what kind of strange effects they had. They're going to do the same thing. And then they might require DNA testing. A lot of folks say, I'm not taking that. That's to set up some kind of biological warfare on black folk. Well, yeah, all of the above. So by the time they get through setting that up, how many years in the future is that going to be? So I'd love it. Don't get me wrong. Give me my damn 40 acres and 1 goddamn army mule. Compounded semi-annually at a reasonable rate since 1865, when General William Tecumseh Sherman issued a military commander's order in his military district, January 14th, 1865, that set up reparations in the form of 40 acres of confiscated rebel land and one army mule. Well, his superior, General Grant, approved it. President Abraham Lincoln approved it. The Republican Congress, House and Senate passed enablement. They set up a bureau to manage it. It was going good until Lincoln got assassinated. And then going on July 1865, this clown Johnson, a Democrat from Tennessee, exited because at the time the South was still a military district and he was commander in chief. So, we haven't had anything since. But I'd like the interest compounded semi-annually at a reasonable rate on 40 acres and one damn army mule. It might be quite considerable now. But, don't hold your breath. But it would be nice.
I agree. I say that. I agree fully. This is an interesting question that this brother got for you. Shadow Dog Law. Shout out to you for the 999. He said, flowers for Judge O'Brien. Do you believe judges purposely side against the dads in custody cases just to keep the black children lacking of good guidance, thus continue black people being a permanent underclass? Shout out to you, brother. Go ahead, Judge.
Some may. I've known some racist, no good scoundrels that have put on the back cape. Typically, they were former career prosecutors. And by the way, some of the most untrustworthy, lacking in character people you will ever meet are career prosecutors. Not all of them. And just because you prosecute is not bad, but if you make a career of it, something's wrong with you. But anyway, what actually happens is ignorance. You have people who do not associate child support for children born out of wedlock because their group doesn't have them publicly. They have them, but they have friends that keep it quiet, so political careers, professional careers are not ruined, and they can be kept in careful check. What I think is most paramount out there is just flat out ignorance driven by this toxic masculinity spiel and this hate men spiel and this feminist madness that's been put out there that is trendy. And that's what's really screwing people, because a lot of these folk don't even have any intent. It's just what they're used to. And they've never seen it in a different way.
A good answer, Judge. And shout out to you, Shadow Dog Law. Shout out to Sergeant Tyson for the $5 donation. He said, I found out that my BMT is paying child support and arrears to grandma terrorists, and I am happy that she's paying $1,800 a month. Shout out to you, my brother. Low life. Even the grandma's a terrorist. Shout out to Hologram for the $5 donation. He said the alphabet groups are a Trojan horse for the pedos. Now doing business as MAPS, M-A-P, minor attracted persons, hashtag the new state religion. Shout out to you, brother.
Let me say something. If it's your child, and I would suggest that before you do anything, you get a DNA test and find out if it is, then support the kid. What I don't like is this thing that they put the guy's name on the birth certificate and we look at, guess what? You are not the father. Well, yes. The other 7 men you accused, they weren't the father. Well, I know who he really is. If it's not this, it's got to be this guy. And that's not too cool either. And the other thing is too often the entities that deal with support and custody are set up to generate future business by screwing up the children in the home so they don't have a daddy. Now, see, daddies do well for daughters too. See, daughter wants something. She comes up, Daddy, could I have $50, please, Tamika and I going to the mall? Baby, I just gave you 20 yesterday. Daddy, please. All right, here's 100. Don't bother me anymore this week. Now, she'll learn how to deal with men when she grows up. The one that ain't got no daddy around, they put a hand on her hip. Let me tell you something. I'm going to make you do blah. It doesn't work.
Not at all. Shut up.
Another thing too.
Uh-huh.
I grew up, everybody's dad was around unless they got killed in World War II or Korea or something. But we heard when we hung around with dad, he and his friends would be talking about women. And when you were with mom, the women would be talking about guys. So you heard it. So you knew what your side was. I side with the men. And the women do this. And yeah, the men got to keep it straight and provide the guidance and the leadership, the protection and the provision. And the women, they do this other thing, make the household cool. They look at stuff dad doesn't look at, and that's what women do. And that's cool by me. Plus, they're beautiful. They smell sweet, and it's a mystery. I don't know what they're good for yet. But, let me see. I don't want to be one. No, I'm glad I'm a guy. I like hanging out with the guys with dad and uncle and granddad. That's cool. Nowadays, they don't get that.
Interesting. Shout out to Battles with a $5 donate. Said shout out to Mr. Palmer and Judge Joe Brown 100. Shout out to Gamer for Life with a $50 donate. Said I'm 30 minutes behind, but thank you, Mr. Palmer, Judge Joe Brown. This is priceless, man. Shout out to you. Thank you, Gamer. Dallas D got a question. She says, salute to the judge. Can you explain the SB 145 in the 10-year context for statutory cases?
You have to tell me what that is. I have 60 years, 55 years worth of law up in my head. I can't remember the numbers. What's it about?
Okay. So she'll come back with that. She also got another question here. Shout out to Dallas D for the $10 donation. I'm sorry. Shout out to Dallas D for the $10 donation. Said, question for Judge O'Brien. Do you think that Kamala Harris has gained political clout during her time working in San Francisco sex crimes unit, given the history of trafficking in California? Shout out to you. Good question.
Well, let me put it this way. I was in California doing that show for most of the time she was doing that. She didn't have a good reputation. She was known as being lazy. And when she wanted something, she'd hike up her skirt hemline, try to play it that way. She didn't stay on top of things. And she had a very bad thing of white folk could do no wrong, and every black man that looked cross-eyed, she was going to try to send to jail. The other thing is, I met her daddy in Jamaica. My last ex-wife, who was a star quality looking one anyway, I can't keep them too long, but she and I were sitting at the governor general's table along with the prime minister, and we got introduced to everybody's favorite Hindu professor, who said he was Hindu and Irish, and he apologized for his Irish ancestors keeping slaves on Jamaican plantation. They didn't say anything about black, and the mama's Hindu, so Hindu, and Irish. Where'd you get the black out of that? See, that woman's been a front job ever since. And the San Francisco Chronicle and the LA Times used to carry some very nasty articles on her about what she was doing. And I can't forgive her for what she did with George Soros and Mnuchin with First One West Bank. I had a ranch out there in a place called Ojai, about 75, 80 miles outside of LA. And 3 of my neighbors were getting fraudulently foreclosed on by One West Bank. Well, San Diego counties, Santa Bernardino County, Santa Barbara County, Ventura County, LA County, Orange County, San Joaquin County, Sacramento County, they returned 5,200 counts of felony counts in various indictments against the CEO Mnuchin and One West Bank. Well, Mnuchin and Soros financed Kamala Harris's run for state attorney general. She got elected to that thanks to their help. They raised quite a bit of money. And the first thing she did as California Attorney General has exercised the authority to consolidate all 5,200 indictment counts and dismiss them. So Soros sells One West Bank for $4.2 billion in 2014, and they put together a $15 million kitty so that she could get elected to the U.S. Senate. So it went from there. And when she did what she supposedly was doing, certain people got smiled at. No big deal. Other people got jacked up. And the big problem was the sex trafficking that was going on in California, particularly with the young women who were minors. And that seems to have been encouraged in some quarters with immunity from prosecution. So I guess part of the in crowd is what it is. Now, some gay people that I met working with them in Hollywood, and they used to brag that 8 or 9 out of every 10 people that worked in Hollywood that you saw were into that. That's their business. But they looked at LGBTQ as a cult, particularly as it dealt with this pedophile thing, because a lot of them said they were reduced to a lifetime of misery because of what somebody did to them when they were children. And yeah, they claim to be proud, whatever, but not really. So they didn't like it. But LGBTQ set up this alliance. It goes all the way back past 1972. And you've got this crazy thing out there with bringing in that never too young to say yes.
I understand. I understand you got another show to do. I'm not gonna hold you no longer, but what I want to do, I want to set up for you to come back, and I want to do kind of a continuation on the child support, and I definitely want to talk about you running for mayor in Memphis, Tennessee, and the importance of black male votes and black people voting. Period. I want you to be the next mayor of Tennessee in Memphis.
Memphis. Now, let me say something very brief about that.
Okay.
Black male vote is crucial to everybody, but they take us for granted until we become absolutely necessary. We don't need to be treated like that. Anybody that's called us toxic, they need to be told to go to hell. Anybody that's tried to appeal with us with nonsense like this poison last go around, what was it? Take your booties to the pole. And I do another show with Valerie Denise on Friday, and we interviewed the woman that set that up. So we went online and looked up the people that were performing in there, stripping and dancing with bare behind on the poles. Third of them weren't even girls.
Oh, wow. Okay. Ooh, didn't know that.
So, take your booties to pole. And what is this gay boy that's on that other one? No voting, no vucking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude need to get some bass in his voice. Man, it's his business to do what he wants to do, but he doesn't have to worry about the fallout, I don't guess.
Right. Well, definitely, I will stay in tune with you. We'll talk again, and we'll come up with another schedule to talk about you running for mayor of Memphis. I definitely appreciate your time. I know you got another interview to do. We appreciate you, and we appreciate
you, brother. And be strong. Keep on doing what you're doing. Treat your children right. They're most important. They carry on for you. Have as much influence as you can. If they block you, try to make the world around them safe for them if you can't deal with them directly.
I understand. Truth is what it is. Shout out to Judge Doe Brown, and he will be back on again. Appreciate it.
Bye, got to go. This has been Judge Joe. Catch me when you can, because I'm the one that ran. And in 2023, make me mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown and take back your town. A vote for me is a vote for yourself, because I want you to run the city, but you need me so you can do it through me.
Shout out to you, Judge Joe Brown. I appreciate you.
All right, I'm out of here.
All right, have a good one, Judge Joe Brown. Shout out to the Honorable, the real Judge Joe Brown. His manager was hitting me up. You know, he got another show to do, so I didn't want to keep him on there, be the cause of him missing out. I love the way he talks. He's long-winded. I have no problem with that, especially when he's speaking the truth. So the next time I come back on here, I will bring that up, Dallas D, and you'll definitely remind me. She was talking about the hashtag, the DNA 826, which is the talk of the paternity fraud. Shout out to you, sister. Shout out to Sir Tice for the $10 donation. He says, salute Mr. P and Honorable Judge Joe Brown. To the judge, what is his thoughts on the Soros-funded prosecutors? Many are black that are a part of the crime surge deliberately done. Love your thoughts, Judge. He kind of mentioned that when he mentioned Soros' name, but like I said, what I'm gonna do when he come back on, he will be back on here again soon. Text me because Sir Tice got my number. Dallas D, you got my number. Text me, remind, we'll bring it back up. If that didn't answer your question when you mentioned Soros, we could talk about that. Not a problem. Shout out to you, my brother. Shout out to Pan African, black man going their own way for the $10 donation. He said, salute to Patriarch. Shout out to Paul for the $9.99. He said, thank you, Mr. Palmer, Judge Joe Brown, for putting yourself out there and informing men and some women to what has been really going on all these decades. Shout out to the Seattle Black veteran for the $10 donation. He said, salute to my brothers, Mr. Palmer and Judge Joe Brown. Shout out to Game of Lives Matter for the $5 donation. He said, I know this is off topic, but this would make my dear Judge Joe Brown tell my baby mama that want more money. Walmart is always hiring. Walmart is hiring. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to you. Remind me on the next go round. I'm sure gonna make them say that. I'm sure gonna make Walmart is always hiring. So look, y'all. Like I said, a lot of this stuff we've been saying, not just me, other guys, other brothers, other men in general, that's been saying that this is, and we talking about particularly in the black community, that this has been going on for a very long time. This man has been around for a very long time, been in the politics, been in the law of the land. And he said a lot of stuff that I've been saying. So that's why when people get mad and get in their feelings and try to use the victimhood and say, you know,
how dare you do this to me? How do you live with yourself?
I want you to understand that they will say anything, shame, blame, and explain to make you be quiet, call you deadbeat, low life, you know, sleep on the couch, a dumb N-word from Cottage Grove and everything else. I want you to understand that a lot of this stuff that I've been saying has not been lied. This is stuff they don't want you to know. This is stuff that they want to hide. They want to make you be the evil doer, the villain, the bad guy, when in actuality, y'all know what it is. So let me let Denzel speak on behalf of Malcolm X.
You've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok.
So yeah, like I said, man, that's why I'm continue to do what I do. And I told you, a lot of these dudes don't have integrity. A lot of these dudes gonna say it's your fault. It's because you didn't keep your thing in the pants. They're gonna tell you that it's because you didn't want to be a father. No, they're not gonna tell you the truth on what's really going on or what's been going on before we was born. They always gonna make some type of excuse to put it on you. Whose fault is it always gonna be, y'all? White, black, blue, green, Hispanic, it don't make a difference. You all Jermaine.
What's wrong with y'all?
Oh, not that one, not that one.
It's all Jermaine's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault.
Yeah. So you heard it from a real judge. You heard it from somebody that's been around for a very long time. So now, like I said, when people try to come at me and make their little BS and you lying, you just don't want to be a father, or you just don't want to take care of your business and all that stuff, y'all already know how I react on that Reverend Next thing. That's why I continue to do what I do. Yes. So, like I said, man, I appreciate y'all tuning in. This was epic. And y'all definitely y'all definitely subscribe if you're new, and definitely hit the comment section and tell me what y'all think. I am gonna have him back on here. We're gonna talk more about him running for mayor, but I want to continue a little bit more with the child support as well, especially with that paternity fraud. Man. Shout out to the real Dana, because she's the reason why this has happened. And, like I said, we have to, as men, we have to stop being quiet, put out our truth, and let people know that, believe me, it ain't the men. And I ain't talking about the ones that didn't want to be fathered, that opt out, that ran off, that planned to have a kid. No, I ain't talking about them. See, this is why I tell y'all we have to change the laws in the mind, and we got to definitely do what we got to do as men to survive this unfortunate society that we live in. So on that note, I'm Mr. Palmer, and this conversation is over. Anybody want to react to the video, you can react to it. You want to share, please share it, put it out there, because it need to be out there to the fullest. Just give me my credit. And like I said, spread the message. Now, I usually play my songs and stuff like that, but for this one, I'm not going to do it. And hey, Tamara, shout out to you. We got my man Chaos. He's going live in 20 minutes. Subscribe to my brother's channel and definitely tune in. Like I said, truth is what it is, and
You can't handle the truth.
so on that note, I'm Mr. Palmer, and this conversation is over. You already know what it is. Peace out, guys. Straight up. Salute Cows Gang, Cows Gang. Yeah.